Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit of technical analysis on Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency markets, and more specifically, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin's 6-month-long losing streak that has been on for the last, 6 months or so. Ever since August of 2018, Bitcoin has consistently been closing its monthly candlestick in the red, starting back over here in August and moving on all the way through January. February is the first month that Bitcoin has closed bullish in half a year. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing that in this news article that dives in depth with this, and we're also going to be talking about where Bitcoin is likely to go here in the month of March. You guys know that I'm rather bearish, on the short term, and I think that Bitcoin is going to break bearish here out of this consolidation pattern that it currently finds itself in. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about that losing streak that Bitcoin has been on, and we're also going to be talking about what the month of March might have in store for Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, definitely consider dropping a like, hitting that subscribe button, and smashing that notification bell, guys. It does help out the channel if you do it, and I would as always be appreciative if you did it. But almost without much further ado, let's get right into it. I do apologize for yesterday's video being up late. Like I said, I had some pretty bad food poisoning, and I am okay now, in case you were wondering. With all that out of the way, though, let's go ahead and get right into it. We're going to start with some short-term technical analysis on Bitcoin, and then we're going to move out to the monthly chart. I'm going to do the short-term stuff first because that's probably what you guys are mostly here for, although I'm sure you're going to be interested in what we have to say on the longer-term stuff as well. But anyway, Bitcoin is currently trading around $3,800 on Coinbase here, and about $100 higher over on Bitfinex. As you guys know, Bitfinex has a little bit of a price discrepancy against Coinbase's Bitcoin. It trades a little bit higher over there for various reasons. A lot of that has to do with Tether. We're not going to be getting into that in today's video, though. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump on over to CoinMarketCap because there are some things that we need to discuss here. One of them is the volume, and another one of them is the change over the last 24 hours for the majority of the crypto markets. If we sort by change over the last 24 hours, we're going to see BAT and Ravencoin, Basic Attention Token, and Ravencoin are the two double-digit gainers in today's video. Ravencoin being up 23% and it's steadily increasing in value over the course of the last week. But if we scroll down here, we're going to see 60 to 70 cryptocurrencies are in the red, with ABBC coin in the double-digit red, down 12%. The main thing that I want to discuss here on CoinMarketCap today is volume, because that's one of the things that we're going to be discussing over in this article over here on cryptoslate.com is volume. Bitcoin's volume has been picking up quite substantially here over the last couple of weeks, and really the majority of 2019 has seen vastly more volume than we have seen in the year of 2018. If we go ahead and bring our volume up here, we're going to see that very, very clearly. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind is that this is volume measured in Bitcoin, not in US dollars. So because Bitcoin is trading lower down here than it was back when it was above $6,000, there's a little bit of a discrepancy here. But even adjusting for that fact, Bitcoin's volume has rallied in a major way ever since Bitcoin fell below the all-important and crucial level of support of $6,000. As we can see, the volume climaxed in a massive way right here. It's been tailing off a little bit, but that's because Bitcoin's gotten a little less volatile ever since Bitcoin broke 6K. And we've seen that volume come back in a very big way. We can see the actual dollar volume if you come here and click volume on CoinMarketCap. We can see that it has been steadily increasing over the last couple of months. Down here from where it was trading, this is total market capitalization volume, total market volume, of around $10 billion every day. Back over here in October, November, as you can see on the tooltip right here, it says 24-hour volume. We can see that that has been steadily increasing from ranges in between $10 and $15 billion all the way up to where we would currently find it now, somewhere around $25 to $35 billion, as we're seeing every single day consistently. That is a really, really good thing to see. You want to see more volume come back into the space. You want to see volume come back into the space because it typically correlates with retail investor interest. It's something that institutional investors look at in a market to see liquidity in the market, and it's something that drives volatility. And as I've talked about in so many videos, the thing that dictates how much money you can make in a market is not the direction of the market. So if you can short, it's actually how volatile the market is. The more volatile the market is, the better it is, so long as that volatility is able to be predicted by technical analysis, and it certainly is here in Bitcoin. So this is a very big development, one that I've talked about a few times, but that I wanted to talk about again because it's very, very important. I love seeing Bitcoin's volume up here, and I would love to see that continue to rise because we're seeing more money flow back into the space. That's the only reason that volume is going up. That's one of the main reasons it's going up anyway. And when you see more volume and when you see more capital flowing into the space, that is typically going to lead to higher prices simply because there's more people buying, since there's more money coming back into the space. And to get into the market, they have to buy Bitcoin. That's typically going to drive prices up. With all that said, let's go ahead and get into one of the other topics of today's video, which is what Bitcoin is going to be doing over March. And of course, I have just talked about a very bullish thing, that being increasing volume for the total market and increasing volume on Bitcoin. But you guys know that I'm rather bearish on for the next week or two. I'm rather bearish for Bitcoin. Now, it seems like I may be contradicting myself there. I'm saying that I'm rather bearish for March, or for the first half of March, but I'm very happy about this increasing volume. Well, the reason for that is because I'm bearish on the short term, the next week to week and a half or so, I'm bearish about. But the next couple of months, I think, are going to be very, very bullish for Bitcoin, so long as one thing doesn't happen, and that's Bitcoin breaking below $3,000. But that's not all that likely at the moment. So long as Bitcoin stays above $3,000, I'm very bullish for the long term. And by the long term, I mean from here on into like May, maybe early June. I'm very bullish for this time period. I'm really very bullish for all of 2019. March, on the other hand, I'm not as bullish about. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Where do we think Bitcoin is going to go here in March? Well, Bitcoin, as we know, is in this consolidation pattern right here. And if you watched yesterday's video, I do highly recommend you go back and watch that video as a prelude to this one. I talked about why it was most likely that Bitcoin is going to break bearish here, or it will break bullish and then break bearish after having a false breakout. Either way, I think that Bitcoin is more than likely going to start heading back down towards this uptrend of support, and that would be my price target. Now, that's probably going to take several days to unfold. We may not even see this breakout of this consolidation pattern for the next several days. In fact, Bitcoin might trade sideways for a week here before we finally get something to happen. As you can see over here, we saw Bitcoin trade sideways for quite some time before we finally saw a breakout. It's very possible that Bitcoin trades sideways here on into the 5th, 6th, 7th of March before we actually see a proper breakout. But when it happens, it's probably going to be bearish, and it's probably going to bring us down to this uptrend of support. And we come in here to the 4-hourly chart. You guys will very clearly see what level of support that is that I think Bitcoin is heading back down towards. Now, after that, Bitcoin will be moving into a very, very interesting and a very decisive point in its history. Is Bitcoin going to bounce here and start moving to the upside, or is Bitcoin going to break this uptrend of support? Now, this is something that's kind of far out and based on the assumption that we're going to break bearish here, so it's harder to do technical analysis on which one of these scenarios is going to play out, a bullish bounce or a bearish breakthrough. But I will go ahead and lay out the pros and cons of each one of them and why one of them is much more preferable to the other. And obviously, that's the bounce. We obviously want Bitcoin to bounce off of this uptrend of support, because if Bitcoin does not bounce off of this uptrend of support and breaks bearish here, that would be a break of core market structure that has been in effect since halfway through December. And it would also be breaking market structure that we have been following ever since 2014 and 2015. Now, I don't have time to get into that in today's video, but I did an entire dedicated video on that. If I remember, I will link that in the top right. But the point of that is that if we break that uptrend of support, then we are also going to be breaking the 200 weekly moving average. That's this moving average right here that just so happens to be coinciding perfectly with that uptrend of support. We very much do not want to break that uptrending moving average. If we break that, that would be very bad for Bitcoin. And the effects of that, well, so far we haven't seen what the effects of that could even be. We've never seen that kind of thing happen in Bitcoin. So we really don't want it to happen. We really don't want the uncertainty of Bitcoin breaking one of its most important support levels to come to pass, especially when we've never seen how Bitcoin reacts to something like that. So if Bitcoin breaks bearish there, that's going to be very bad. So we have basically two different ways that March is going to play out for Bitcoin. Either Bitcoin is going to break bullish and it's going to, or well, there's actually four, I guess. Either Bitcoin's going to break a bullish and continue moving to the upside, and my prediction of Bitcoin moving down is wrong. That's one of them. And the other one is that if Bitcoin comes down here, it has two decisions to make. It can either break a bullish or it can break a bearish. But either way, March is probably going to be bearish for Bitcoin in the first half, and then we may see some bullishness pick back up later on in the second half of March if Bitcoin bounces off of this uptrend of support. And really going further out from that, it's harder to predict. If Bitcoin does manage to stay above this uptrend of support, it's probably not going to break it in the month of March. So March would probably be rather, not necessarily stagnant, but probably not the most eventful thing. We might see something crazy happen. Time will tell on that. Anyway, guys, that was the technical analysis for this portion of the video, but I do want to go ahead and get into this news article here. Bitcoin finishes February up 11%, ending record 6-month streak of losses. This is a really interesting piece of news that I hadn't even noticed, but they're absolutely right. If you come in here to the weekly chart, the monthly chart, and we zoom in, we'll actually go to the Bitfinex chart, so there's not a bunch of TA in the way. If we come out here to the Bitfinex chart on the monthly, we're going to see that the last 6 months for Bitcoin here have all closed red. This one here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you go back in time, you're actually going to find that that is the only time that we've seen something like this happen in a very long time, or depending on what chart you're looking at, in the entire history of Bitcoin. You have to go back a very long way to find the last time Bitcoin closed 6 months red in a row. That doesn't happen a whole lot. If you remember back to like 4 or 5 months ago, I was talking about how Bitcoin closed 7 daily candlesticks red in a row, and that was extremely rare. It hadn't happened in many years. This is another example of that. Bitcoin hasn't closed 6 red candlesticks in a row in its entire history, depending on what chart you look at. Some charts are going to show that it's closed 6 probably, but most of them are showing that Bitcoin has never done this before. The closest that we ever got was 5 months red in a row in 2011, and of course Bitcoin's market was not anywhere near as mature back then as it is now. So this is a very interesting development, and typically when you see a market close red for that long, you're going to see some kind of bounce. That's one of the reasons why Bitcoin's RSI is so far down here, and why it's looking so similar to what we saw when Bitcoin was trading down and rejecting from $1,200 back in the 2014-15 bear market. We saw Bitcoin's RSI come all the way down to around 45. And interestingly enough, we've seen Bitcoin come back to that exact same level on its RSI out here on the monthly chart, indicating a probable bounce. But a lot of times when you see a market trade red for so long, you're inevitably going to see some kind of a bounce. So it's very nice to see that March, in fact, was one. And that February was, in fact, one. And March very well and may end up being another example of that. Anyway, let's continue reading on here. Bitcoin has ended a 6-month streak of losses, closing February up 11%. This is the 5th consecutive year Bitcoin has closed February while in the green. While some day traders are using this opportunity to take profits, others are going to long with the belief that the bear market could be coming to an end. And so long as Bitcoin doesn't break that 200 weekly moving average that we discussed earlier, I think the bear market is coming to an end, and I think it's going to be wrapping up in the next 6 to 7 months or so. We'll see how that plays out. Anyway, Bitcoin ends this record 6-month-long losing streak last week's bear market. Last year's crypto winter has been long, with mounting losses forcing many to reconsider their investment. Crypto companies across the globe have also suffered, as even the big players in the industry weren't immune to the downturn. Even Coinbase wasn't able to get a Super Bowl commercial, although that would have been absolutely hilarious. However, as 2019 progresses, investors are hopeful that the recent trend of upwards movement is salient. One of the most notable indicators of market sentiment is, of course, Bitcoin. The value of the world's largest cryptocurrency always mirrors the current state of the market, which is why I do most of our technical analysis here on Bitcoin, because many times the altcoins are going to simply be following Bitcoin and doing whatever Bitcoin does, because Bitcoin is still looking at 52% market dominance. Bitcoin still has the majority of the market on its own, so it's very important to be keeping an eye on Bitcoin. I'm going to skip over some of this stuff, but I do want to talk here about this right here. Trading volumes have also reached levels relatively high compared to the bulk of 2018, with $8.4 billion traded on cryptocurrency exchanges for Bitcoin, indicating a higher likelihood of near-term price movement. That is absolutely right, and I love to see that Bitcoin volatility going up, that Bitcoin volume going up, and the fact that Bitcoin is no longer as stagnant as it was for a very long time in 2018. If you guys remember back to Q3 and the first half of Q4 of 2018, not a whole lot was going on. Bitcoin was basically just trading sideways. As we move back here on the chart, actually we'll look at this on the 4-hourly. If we look back here in the second half of 2018 or so, Bitcoin was very, very involatile. We saw Bitcoin's trend of rallies and downtrends come to an end, and it basically traded sideways here for about 2.5 months. It was boring, to put it simply, and no one really enjoyed it. Bitcoin had no volatility, and because there was no volatility, there was no money to be made. It kind of just sucked, to be totally honest. So even though we're back down here below $3,000, we're seeing a lot more interesting price movement. And honestly, I prefer this to this simply because the future for Bitcoin looks better, and there's a lot more interesting stuff going on as the fundamentals and the technicals continue to improve. Anyway, however, while the month ending in green is almost universally considered a good sign by traders, many crypto investors remain skeptical about Bitcoin's stability at current price levels. A number of crypto Twitter personalities pointed out that the hype generated by February's rally could spell trouble for the coin, arguing that it might fuel sell-offs as some traders take profits. Others suggest that this is a temporary movement and the bear market will continue through the summer. I sit somewhere in the middle of that. I don't think that Bitcoin's bear market is all the way concluded. With that said, I do think the bear market is over, and I think we're in an accumulation phase. So let me clarify on that a little bit. I don't think that we're not halfway through the accumulation phase, if you will. If we were to cut out the idea of the accumulation phase, and we would say that everything before halfway through the accumulation phase of the bear market, I don't think we're through that, although I would say with a pretty high degree of confidence based on what happened in 2014 that the bear market ended somewhere right around there, and that we are now in accumulation, and that Bitcoin is now trading sideways, preparing for a bull market later on in the year or in the beginning of 2020. Anyway, guys, that is basically all we had to talk about in today's video. I wanted to talk to you guys about the volume because that is so important. It's a really important fundamental that I think a lot of people overlook and don't realize just how important it is. I also want to talk about the month of March and try to give you guys an idea of what Bitcoin may be doing here over the month of March. And I also want to talk about the long term and discuss the fact that Bitcoin has finally broken that trend with the 6 red in a row here out on the monthly chart that I'm sure we've all been following, as Bitcoin had been trending downwards and downwards and downwards over the last 6 months. That trend is now finally and luckily come to a close. Anyway, guys, Bitcoin might not be looking all that healthy for the next week or two, but I think over the next year, Bitcoin is looking as healthy as ever, and I do see a bull market coming in the next year, probably between in the next 8 months and the next 16 months, somewhere in that time period. The beginning of 2020 is what looks most likely to me. Somewhere in between a time like this and a time like this, I'm expecting some kind of signal to show us that Bitcoin will be entering a bull market. Those are very rough figures, by the way. I'm not pointing to exact dates when I drew those. Anyway, guys, I am going to be wrapping the video up here. Tell me in the comment section down below if you got any value out of this video. I do love reading your comments, and I do love talking to you guys. Also, if you want to, you can join the you can join the Discord server. I almost had to do some shameless self-promotion. I might have to anyway. You can join the Discord server with the link in the description down below. What I was also going to say is you can join the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy if you want to learn how to do technical analysis on Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency markets, but I was actually trying to talk about the Discord server there. Anyway, guys, I am well and truly rambling now, so I do want to thank each and every single one of you for watching as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.